So why don't we just start in getting to know who our panelists are. So maybe if Sarah and Cheryl could just share a little bit of their background and who they are, and that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll jump in. I'm Sarah Prabhakar Rufus. I work for BCTI, which stands for Biblical Counseling Trust of India. So I work as a counselor and a trainer. My background is that I'm half Indian, half Australian. My dad's Indian, my mum's Australian, grew up in Sydney, finished school there, studied psychology there. And then it's a much longer story, but the short is that I came and joined BCTI in 2008. So I've been here for a long time now. I only joined DBF Gurgaon more recently when I got married to Tim at the end of 2019. So most of our married life has been under the influence of lockdown and pandemic. Over to you, Cheryl.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Cheryl. Most of you would have known me as Cheryl Kutikal before. Now I'm Cheryl Josie, and my story is much smaller than Sarah because I'm very young in experience. So yes, I have been born and most of my life brought up in Delhi, and we moved to Gurgaon in 2014. That's when I joined DBF, and I did college, studied psychology there, went for a master's program in counseling psychology, and currently I work with children who have special needs, precisely, more particularly autism. And yeah, I work at this school called Autism Center for Excellence, and we work on a one-on-one program. And I'm married to Blessing, who you saw singing with me earlier in the beginning of the service. And yeah, many of you know us. So yeah, happy to be here and just be on the same panel as Sarah. I think it's a privilege.
Yeah, thank you both of you. I really appreciate in a short span of time you were willing to come and help us and think about this topic and learn from your own experience. Yeah, talking about experience, like as I was preparing this talk, I learned that maybe everyone is struggling a little bit, and it varies. So I thought, why don't we make it a little bit personal as we begin? How have you both personally experienced COVID's impact on your mental or emotional health? Have you, any level or something? So we can, you can share. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go first. I was just sharing this in the group earlier when we were in the breakout rooms. The biggest impact for me has been the uncertainty. And thank you for bringing the verse, like we do not know about our tomorrow. And I think I realized that very strongly during COVID. So we were going to get married in April 2020, and then right before our wedding, the lockdown happened and we had to postpone everything. And I think personally, I'm a person who loves to plan, and it was very evident during our wedding planning process as well. I had notes, and my complete wedding planner was like filled with ideas and dates and everything. And then suddenly all of that changed, and I think that has continued till now. So God has really taught me that nothing in your life actually is under your own control, and you're not the one driving your own car, and you're not the one deciding your tomorrow, no matter how much we believe it or feel that we are in control. But I think COVID has really taught me personally that we're not in control. So yeah, that has been my personal experience. It's been a big learning.
Some of my work, actually most of my work, transitioned very easily to online. So that was a smooth thing for me. And I shared in my group that I'm actually thankful everyone knows about Zoom, because that has made my life easier. I don't have to give instructions of how to use Zoom anymore. People already know how to use it. So there's been some interesting side notes. I guess there's two things that I've noticed for myself. One is that while working from home has been has been pleasurable in many ways, enjoyable. Where work ends and where the rest of life starts feels like it's very blurry. And so I think that's been challenging. Also, just not taking breaks in the usual way that we take breaks. So I think for many people, leaves have just been accruing. I hope that people can still use their leaves, that they don't get expired at the end of the 12-month period, whenever it is. But just having punctuations where we stop is, I think, much more challenging, because we don't want to waste it thinking that we're not going somewhere, those kind of things. And the other thing for me would be feeling the distance between my family in Australia and New Zealand and here. I have family in India as well, but I've never felt the distance with my family in Australia and New Zealand, because it literally was one flight away. And I mean, in some ways that might sound big, but it wasn't an issue before. Just if there was a need, I could go. And so that's been something that I have felt.
Thank you sharing personally. Yeah, as I said, जब मैं prepare कर रहा था, I learned that even I wasn't aware that maybe COVID is having some impact on my mental and emotional health. So there is the people, patients, and those who are affected emotionally and mentally seriously, they are aware. But general public, aam aadmi, are not aware. So what are some ways we can raise awareness in self and among our friends and family to know that maybe COVID is impacting our mental and emotional health?
I think this is a kind of a quick answer, but I think it's just talking about it. Like actually, having conversations. There are different, I guess, pieces, like journalistic pieces that have been done to highlight this. There was, I think it was in the New York Times, there was a piece on languishing. I don't know if anyone's read that or listened to that. And so drawing attention to this word languishing, saying this is kind of our experience during pandemic. But I think just very, very briefly, it's talking about it.
Yeah, another thing among youngsters, more specifically, social media has been a huge help. I wouldn't say for everyone, but for a lot of people, it just venting out through social media, posting stories, or even just sharing experiences out with people, whether virtually or through social media. That has just made everyone aware that you're not alone in this. And whatever you're experiencing, it's not just your own experience, but a lot of people and the whole country, the world actually is in it together. So yeah, for a lot of people that has helped.
Yeah, thank you. So talking about it, and we all are in it together, that does help. Just in regards to awareness, does anyone have a follow-up question? Okay, next question. As you're in touch with many people in counseling through BCTI and also through friends, Cheryl, what has been the most common mental or emotional issue that people are facing? What has been, like we mentioned few, but what have you found in your experience and talking to people?
Shall I go first? Actually, I just want to rewind. I want to go back to awareness. We're talking about just the awareness of our mental health and how we're doing emotionally. But I actually think this is such an opportunity for us as Christians to talk about a bigger picture, to talk about hope that we have and to create awareness of that. Like Cheryl was saying that we knew beforehand that we weren't in control, but COVID has highlighted it in a way that I think no one can ignore it now. And I would actually say that when it comes to thinking about the difficulties people are coming with, they are the same difficulties that people came to seek out counseling before COVID. The same kind of issues that people are coming during COVID, and there'll be the same issues after COVID. Yes, COVID has highlighted them greatly. And I think there's a collective nature to fear, to anxiety, to grief, all of these things. And that kind of gives it a momentum in some ways that I think is unhelpful, but that's kind of just the situation as it is. But I think as I think about awareness, I think I want us to be creating awareness of a bigger picture that, literally when everything is stripped away, when you think, I can't save, this family member because I can't get oxygen. We were desperate during that second wave of COVID. And like, if people said to me, what can I do? What do I have to offer, Sarah? I think, like this world perspective, very little. But we have an incredible hope that is for eternity. So I think creating awareness on that, not just kind of our mental health and emotional well-being. Often, like, one can lead to the other. But yeah, so coming on to that next question about like what am I seeing in that way at the moment, right at this point in time, what I'm seeing most is grief. People who have lost loved ones. Grief is also any kind of loss. So it could be even not being able to meet with people for a meal. And you might kind of say, oh, that's kind of trivial in comparison to losing a loved one. But there is still that sense of loss and of grieving. So grief can be many different things, but grief at the moment, meeting with women who have lost a parent, meeting with women who have lost a husband. So people who are, I guess, their lives are interwoven with these people. And so what does that grief look like? Initially, there's all of that kind of logistical work that's happening around figuring out burial and, memorial service, all those kind of things. But as time has gone on since the second wave, where we're at right now is people are needing to get into their routines again. And it is so painful. It's so hard because their everyday routines no longer include this person that was woven into their lives. And so I think while the rest of us we have an awareness perhaps that it's difficult, but I'll give you an example that a counselor shared with me. So she lost her father and she said, we have 4 plates at home. One for mum, one for dad, one for me, one for my sister. So every time she sets the table, every time she gets plates out, she's reminded that her dad's not there. So I think grief is something I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, which doesn't surprise me. And just thinking about sharing those details with people in grief. Anxiety and fear have also seen those, but I feel like they I guess it's reflected in the waves of COVID. During that second wave, there was lots of anxiety, there was lots of fear, people wondering whether they should take medication because they were feeling so anxious. And anyway, there's lots of other things we could say about that. But in fact, I think we had the rug pulled out from underneath us in a way. And maybe that seems like it was done to us, it was harsh, but I think it was just showing us that we're not in control. Yeah, anyway, Cheryl, you can add some thoughts here.
I would speak more from the perspective of children and parents because that's the population that I'm working with. So among children, we observed a lot more like just anxiousness of not being in a routine. We all know, I mean, those of you who are parents would know how important it is for a child to have a regular routine. And so when kids stopped going to school, everything shifted online, this new way of working and doing school, learning, increased screen time, everything was just a very hard impact on children. And because I work in the special needs area, our students had a lot more difficulty understanding what's just going on. Why do we have to wear a mask? What is this new sanitization procedure? Why is my mom at home but on the laptop and not playing with me? So we had to deal with those kind of challenges early on. And then specifically talking about parents, they had a very difficult time managing work as well as being with their children at home. Many parents shared that they're not even used to seeing their kids so often, like for such a long duration. And and usually when they are, it's for vacation and they are having fun as a family. But this time they had to work as well as take care of their children, without house helps and the regular kind of help that they get. A lot of people felt isolated. I've witnessed families who were infected with COVID just doing things on their own because nobody could go to their house and help them. I think in the second wave, people were a lot more active physically. They were going out and helping, or they found means to at least supply food and stuff. But we witnessed families just going through a lot more struggle, physical and mental emotional struggle, just in terms of balancing life and maintaining that kind of equilibrium that they had before. So like Sarah mentioned, everything from their ground was just shaken, and they just didn't know what to stand on. So we had a lot of parent counseling done during that time, just to help them handle this stress. Another thing that is currently going on is that a lot of mothers who are being called to work, but their children are still at home. They can't go to school yet. We've seen them like either leaving their jobs or finding different paths of career, and just changing their trajectory in that form because they just don't know what to do. They can't go to office, leaving their kid behind, and yeah, so decision making also has been impacted severely.
Yeah, thank you. That's very, very helpful. And now I think just the last question from my side before people can ask questions is, so what has helped them, or what have you been suggesting? So Sarah, you mentioned a little bit about hope, but just with how have people processed grief and schedule disruption? So what has helped? What are the suggestions?
Let me add one more to the things that I've been seeing. And I think this was already highlighted by Gladwin, the loneliness and isolation that people feel, particularly singles living on their own. I think there are lots of instances where families have kind of come closer together during this time. They haven't had this opportunity to be together as a family. Yes, there have been struggles in certain circumstances, like what Cheryl was saying. But I think for singles, it's been really challenging because they're not able to go out and I guess meet with people in the same way, and they don't have other people at home. If I was on my own, working from home, not going out, I think I'd go into depression, like just a very low mood. I would feel low all the time. So I know that about myself, that I enjoy being around people. And so we have, more or less of that we like. But yes, I think that COVID has highlighted that. So let me start by kind of looking at that. I think one thing is just trying to be creative about ways to connect. I think you also mentioned, Gladwin, about community. And I think we as Christians, we want to be sharing life, and we want to be sharing the gospel. We want to be sharing the two things together. If we just share life without the gospel, we lose out on reminding one another of the hope that we collectively want to hold on to, of direction in some ways. If we just share the gospel, then it can become kind of preachy. Maybe at times it can feel, it can be quite stimulating, the conversations, the Bible discussions that you might have, but we miss out on the kind of applying that to life in in the realness of life. So let me encourage you in your life groups to do that. Now, often I think in a life group, you may still feel like there's too many people, like I can't really share how I'm doing with 10 other people. So I think reaching out to one another and being mindful. So if you know there is someone who is staying on their own, being mindful that they are on their own. And I don't know, like things that we have done is we've played games online with people, just in smaller groups, just having some fun, I guess. I know a couple actually who were not able to be together, and they would have date nights where they each ordered in some enjoyable food for themselves and ate together, which is, we don't normally eat together on camera, but that sense of having a meal together. So I think being creative. I was thinking, what if this pandemic had happened 10 years ago, when we didn't have smartphones or the same. I think we may have had smartphones 10 years ago, but it wasn't so, it wasn't like everyone had access to online, and still people don't have access to online. So that would be one thing. When it comes to anxiety, when it comes to fear, I think that first point that Gladwin shared was really important. I would say it this way: dwell on what you do know, not on what you don't know. Anxiety thrives in dwelling on what you don't know. The what if questions. What if I get sick? What if my, one of my parents gets sick? What if I need to go to hospital? All of these questions, and they're valid questions. I don't mean to say pretend that they're not there, but when we are dwelling there, we get stuck, and that anxiety can just overtake us. So being aware of that, we kind of need to shift gears to get out of that dwelling on what we don't know and into what we do know. So having like a ready list of things that you can do to kind of change your situation. It could be getting up and washing your face, like something very basic, but that it just kind of kind of moves you from being stuck where you are into another position. It may be a list of 2 or 3 activities that you can do, like, I don't know, it could be cooking, it could be reading a book, it could be calling a friend. Just that ready list so you know exactly what you can go to. Sometimes I've enjoyed watching just something on YouTube or Netflix or something, but I don't want it to be just mindless. So I've enjoyed watching the Torchlighter series. I don't know whether any of you know about that. It's actually a kids series about kind of famous Christian people. There's one on Martin Luther, so if you want to know about Martin Luther, and they're freely available on YouTube. But for me, that helps me lift my eyes to see a bigger picture. So there's some of the things. If you really struggle with anxiety, like it is overtaking you, so you're finding it hard to breathe, you might be kind of bordering on a panic attack. I think if you can sing, this may sound crazy, but if you can sing, it really helps, because it regulates your breathing. So you have to then work with an actual flow of breathing. And if you're singing a Christian song, it will remind you of truths that you need to guard your heart and your mind with. So that's just another kind of practical thing.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for some very, very helpful points. I would just want to add 2, adding on to what Sarah already said. One, for us as believers, and this has personally helped me as well, is to be aware and remind ourselves very, very intentionally that God is in control. So I don't know how many times I verbally reminded myself that Cheryl, God is in control. Every time I would pick up the phone, especially during second wave, and hear about a friend or a loved one, and I would just verbally remind myself, God is in control. So for us as believers, I think it is very, very important that we know and believe on this truth that God is in control, regardless of whatever is happening around us. He is all aware. He is all planned, and he knows where this is heading, even though we don't. And the second thing that helped me, a lot of friends, and also a lot of, like I shared, the children and parents, was to be backed by a community or to be part of some community. For us, I think it is a huge privilege that we have something like church, we have life groups, we have someone to just connect with. I remember one thing that I always remind myself, especially nowadays when things are slowly getting back to normal, is that we need to put on a different lens to view life, because life hasn't stopped. Even though we're at home and doing things differently, life has not stopped. And so probably we just need to see things differently and find ways to connect, just the way we used to do earlier. So interesting ways in which people have connected is like doing virtual bridal showers, virtual baby showers. It's not the same, but just being part of it and enjoying the process, that you can still gather around. Like I remember when my bridal shower happened, it was virtual, and I was just happy that a lot of people who wouldn't have joined otherwise, physically, were able to join. And I think enjoying that part and that benefit of technology has really helped a lot of people, yeah, overcome the loneliness and the isolation that they were experiencing. So some form of community that you can be part of, and be a regular attendee over there. It can be an art group, it can be a book reading group, or anything, or a life group like ours. Just something to keep you connected and grounded in community. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah and Cheryl. Very, very helpful. I think we'll just keep it open now for anyone can ask a question. I think ask your question, guys. I think all what we're hearing is quite very helpful. Please be honest. And yeah, so we'll spend some more time in questions and discussion.
While you're all thinking, I'll share something else that I've done. I said earlier that I struggled with just where work finishes and the rest of life starts. I have put alarms on my phone with different music to make me get up and remember to stop working at 6 p.m. So normally I would leave the office, and that would be an indication to get up and go. So just ways to punctuate the day have been helpful for me. They're not magic by any means, but just ways to help in that.
Hi, Sarah. Just wanted to raise one question that definitely COVID has changed a lot of things. We don't meet, and but the new normal is, for now, the new normal is this technology which we have, meeting people over Zoom or over WhatsApp video calls. Uh, Personally, I means me and some of my colleagues we were discussing, and few other friends also, over a period of time, we have found that there is a Zoom fatigue, or like it happens very often, and the desire to come over video call or meeting over videos, like um it has gone down, and it feels very fatigue. Means it gives very fatigue kind of feeling. Actually, I don't feel like meeting over Zoom or doing a video call. Don't feel the essence of that of meeting that person. So how to deal with that kind of condition? Personally, I have to be over Zoom for maybe 4 or 5 days a week. So yeah, so it becomes very difficult actually to connect with them, and to be over, like I don't have a Like I don't have a work nature in which I have to be, means I have to be in front of the screen for a very long time. I do go out and meet people because of my job nature, but because I don't sit in front of the screen and means that long, but coming over Zoom, meeting people maybe 4 5 days a week, that becomes very difficult. So how to deal?
Well, that's a really hard question. Thanks, Kirti. Um, I think one way to think about it is just to think about it in terms of like any fatigue that we have, whether that be a fatigue, like we get tired of work meetings or tired of other things. Sometimes we do have to do things that we don't enjoy doing. But I think recognizing it is one thing, like recognizing that we are weary of being online, of it not being a physical meeting, of it, you have to even constrain yourself to fit in the box, like you can't move about in the same way that you might ordinarily. But I think because Zoom and everything is online, like you're sitting in front of a computer, I think if you are able to do exercise and other kind of practical things like that, it will help. It will help in terms of just giving your body movement. So yeah, I don't think there's nothing particularly spiritual about that response. But I guess one one other thing is realizing that even in these things, we can ask God for help. We can ask God for grace. Like, Lord, I just do not want to do more of these Zoom meetings, but I need to. Will you give me grace? Will you give me strength? So I think I don't want to be like just trying to put a spiritual spin on my response, but I really think it is important that we know that we can ask God for help in the smallest of things as well as the biggest of things.
Yeah, thank you. We'll try that.
I have a question related to Katie's question about Zoom fatigue. Um, so, specifically in the case of church meetings and life group meetings, youth meetings, uh, earlier we used to be really excited. We used to look forward to getting out of the house, going to someone else's house, meeting everyone, doing a study together. And it was something we all, at least I, looked forward to. And now, since it's on Zoom, many times I find myself not wanting to join, and it's really hard to just sit and concentrate. And I tend to zone out like really, really easily. So yeah, it's not as moving as it used to be, especially in terms of church meetings. So that's my situation, and my question is how to deal with it.
I'm guessing you don't want to respond first, Cheryl. There's no really easy answer. I think just like you've recognized well just how it feels, like what it's like for you. I wonder if for some people they are more inclined to join because it is on Zoom. So there are a different kind of the way our strengths and weaknesses play into what we find easy, what we find hard. I'll give you a different example, which this may help, I guess, illustrate this. I think people who identify as extroverts meaning they enjoy being around people, kind of get energy from being around people. I think coming to church is something that they look forward to, maybe a bit like what you're saying, Shreya, and they look forward to kind of those gatherings. But if you identify as an introvert where you still like people, it's not that you dislike people, you still like people, but you can find it overwhelming to be around lots of people. Or sometimes you can even feel drained from that. Going to church at times is really challenging because you just think, oh, I'm already tired and I'm going to be more tired by the time I leave from meeting from all these people. But whether you're an introvert or whether you're an extrovert, God calls us to keep meeting together as his people. Now, the flip side is, if you're an introvert and you enjoy kind of quietness, or just smaller interactions, you are probably going to find it easier to be still on your own with the Lord. It's easier to pull away from people and to have your quiet time. If you're someone who identifies as an extrovert and there are people all around, you are probably going to find it very, very difficult to pull away because you just want to be with people because you enjoy being with people. And it's a good thing. Both are good. So God calls us to deepen our relationship with him. And so whether you identify as an extrovert or as an introvert, we need to be pulling away to have that time with the Lord. And so in this circumstance, we're finding it hard to connect. But I think remembering it's not just about how we feel, acknowledging how we feel, yes, this is challenging. And finding if it's really like kind of the way it's happening, if there are changes that can be done. I think speaking honestly about how it's done can make a big difference. I think we often just keep it to ourselves and we have a passive response of, oh, I just won't attend. But to say I'm really finding it hard to attend. I think breakout rooms are a great invention. If you have 12 people on a screen, which is actually not such a large number of people. I'm just talking very practical here, but if you've got 12 people on a screen, you don't talk much. If you've got 3 people on a screen, you will talk. But thanks for your honesty in asking that question.
I just want to add one thing very practical and something that we're doing currently. As Life Church, we are encouraging people to, find someone and do the service with them. It is really helpful for us. It does motivate us to get out of the bed, actually dress up and, come here to Pastor Gladwin's house and do the service. So I know for people who are away and it's hard to find someone to be around and to do the service with. But at least for those who are in Gurgaon, we would really encourage you to just meet up, or every alternate Sunday to start with, maybe. Just have someone to do the study with or to do church with. It really, really helps.
Thank you, Sarah and Cheryl.
Hi, this is Blessing. So thank you to the three of you, Gladden, Sarah, and Cheryl, for helping us understand what's been some of the challenges of COVID, and also kind of walking us through a little bit about what are some possible solutions that we can try by ourselves. So my question, just to add to that is, when do you think it's important for us to reach out for professional help? Be it whatever we're going through, when do you advise, we should go see a psychologist or someone who would help us from a professional sense as to how to deal with the different emotions we are going through? Yeah.
It's a good question. In some ways, I could say that it's never too early and it's never too late to reach out. I think I have counselors that I meet with, and I know they've said to me, this is where I feel safe. This is where I can be honest. And I think if they had another kind of friendship relationship where they had that space and honesty, then they wouldn't need to meet with me. But it is helpful to meet. So I think in that way, yeah, it's never too early. It's never too late. I think maybe a question that you can ask yourself is, how much of this is it impacting my life? Is it impacting life 20%? Is it impacting life 50%? Is it impacting life 80%? And I guess as you get higher up that percentage, then reaching out is probably for professional help in that sense is more valid. Actually, I don't know if I want to say valid. I think it's always valid, but it's kind of it could be more beneficial, I guess, because of how much of life is being impacted. But yeah, Cheryl, do you have some other wisdom to to contribute here?
Okay, so two things that I just want to mention. The first thing is understanding what counseling is. A lot of people think that, venting out with friends or family members is helpful. Yes, it is, especially if you have a good support group and people who are non-judgmental, who listen to you, who appreciate honesty. It is really helpful that you reach out to friends and family and share with them. However, having a counseling relationship, or meeting with a counselor regularly is not, I mean, in India it is not something that is well appreciated. But I just want to mention that you can go to a counselor, whether a biblical counselor or a regular counselor, at any time you feel stressed or different about your life, even with decision making and all of that. So it's sort of like a mentoring kind of a relationship, and overall it's really helpful. So like Sarah mentioned, there's not really a particular time where you can start, or when you can visit a counselor, even if it's just for a session or so. However, there are some signs which you need to be aware of, so that you can go to a counselor when it's really needed. So one is definitely when you see that your mind, your body is reacting very differently than it used to. Sometimes it may be because of a huge change in your life, but when it's something like COVID that everyone deals differently, you may not be aware of how you are reacting to it, because this is the first time something like this is happening. So just being mindful and being aware of how you are responding to situations. So if you are generally a calm person, but because of some reason you started screaming a lot, or you're very agitated a lot, knowing and just noticing these changes in your life will help you understand where to draw the line, where to seek professional help. Now it's getting out of hand, I really need to go and see a counselor. The earlier the better. It kind of makes our job easier, but not really. Yeah, like the earlier the better. The time you start noticing these changes, you see you're not able to sleep properly, or your routine in life is completely disturbed, you're not able to focus on work. These are few signs that you can keep note of and seek professional help, yeah, before things get really out of hand.
Just a
Um,
follow-up question to that. Are there any easy and ready, places within Delhi NCR or Gurgaon specifically, or how do you reach out to, professional help? Yeah.
Sarah, you can take this one.
You can contact us at BCTI. Oh goodness, I should know our website by now. Yeah, so you can reach out to us there. We have a team of counselors. So we meet with people for an hour to an hour and a half. It's 1,000 rupees per meet. So yes, that's certainly one avenue. And I guess you can look online to find other kind of, there might be some specific counselling, I'm sure counselling in Gurgaon, but I guess I'm talking about a specific kind of biblical counselling perspective where we're wanting to have a Christian understanding, and that and we're happy to meet with people whether people are Christian or not, so that they don't have to be Christian. We just want them to know that we are Christian and work from that perspective.
Something else is, I mean, I would not comment on the success rate of this, but a lot of people have found online texting counseling, like counseling through WhatsApp. There are people who are really addicted to texting, find texting better than face-to-face conversations, and also like being anonymous, so you don't really have to mention your name and be actually present. It's not the best way, but I do know that some people have benefited from it, and that's one way in which we are also running a mentoring website. Pastor Gladwin has just mentioned the site, that's My Struggles, wherein people just post their query, and then through emails, we respond to them. So it's completely anonymous, and it's not face to face. So if you find that route helpful, you can just check out the website mystruggles.in. Yeah.